The three angels were being disciplined by doing a headstand without the use of their arms. Along with the lich. Giju had a grave expression on his face while he was looking at the four before him. While sitting on the horse of the headless horseman, he called Hamiel's name, who replied, "Yes, father." He then called the lich by his name Heart, to which the lich replied, "Yes, great master." He then asked them to explain the situation, then Hamiel replies that he was trying to clean his father's territory of filth, since the unnerving mana within this gate must also be from that group. While the lich countered that he was trying to annihilate the hypocrites that trespassed on his master's territory. Having flies in the territory was filthy. Grabbing his face, Giju let out a big sigh, while Lu laughed, calling him an idiot. Undeads with the power of death would obviously be hostile to angels, it's his fault for not expecting as much. Giju could only lament in his thoughts that Lu knew 100% this was going to happen, but didn't bother to tell him. Regaining some composure, he asked everyone to rise. With a finger raised, Giju told them his first order was not to fight, since both the undeads and angels are under his command. But Hamiel protested, saying why would he protect these wicked undead, but Giju cut him short, saying that he won't ask him to get along with them. But since they are still comrades, so do not speak ill of them in this manner. And if he really wants to get into it, they've been his subordinates for longer than them, they are also the angels' superiors. While the lich looked to be grinning, the angels were all crying. He then asked why they were crying, and the angels said that it was disgraceful and humiliating, but if that is his orders they would obey. Then a voice in his head asked if he could hear him, and Giju called out to the elder. The elder said that this was pretty cool, asking if this is what is called telepathy. Giju explained that since he was now an ego, they could talk in this manner. The elder asked that parts of the gate was pretty noisy, so did he know what was happening, and Giju replied that it was nothing much, there were just some unruly brats. Then the elder asked if he could come over and visit him, since he had something to show him. Giju asked if he was referring to the sword, and the elder replied that he had finished repairing the sword. Sometime later, Giju was holding the repaired white sword in his hand. The elder was telling him that he just barely got the hang of it, thanks to the holy sword scraps that he collected. Giju thanked the elder, saying he didn't know how he can repay him for this. But the elder told him there was no need, rather he owed him his life, so he was finally able to pay back at least the interest. Anyways, he's done everything he can with this, and the rest will depend on him. While Giju was thinking on starting the resurrection processes right away, Lu told him that it was good, but he should at least finish his preparations first. Since it's not ideal to wield life in a gate permeating with dark mana, it'll simply mess up what he had the hang of. And since he needed to play it safe, it would be better to do it at a place he was more familiar with, so he advised him to return back to his basement. Agreeing to this, Giju asked if the elder would like to come along and see the process. To which the elder agreed, saying he would love to see the moment the power of life is imbued in a sword he repaired. Lu told him that it was a good decision, since if any issues arise with El during the resurrection, then the elder could take care of it, and he should also take the angels with him just in case. They might be helpful if any problems come up with him wielding life. Back at the basement, he told his angels to stand by and take action if anything happens to him, and when that happens, follow Lu's instructions. While he might be an absolute scumbag, he's still rather trustworthy, to which Lu protested with annoy. However, one of the angels complained that they can sense evil energy from him, and didn't want to follow orders from someone like him. While holding his arching forehead, Giju told her that they are doing it again. He told them to just do it for his sake and endure it this once, to which they agreed reluctantly. Sounds of laughter could be heard from the back, and Giju turned around to see the elder covering his mouth while trying to hold in his laughter. He said it was nothing, and he was absolutely not laughing because they keep calling him father, so don't worry about it. But it was so obvious, and Giju's face started to get red from the embarrassment he felt. Brunhart said that it was cool, and asked if he could call him father as well. In the next moment, Giju declared a quick name meeting and said that the name father was being banned, which called all three of the angels to protest. They shouted that he was their creator, then how could they possibly call him anything else, not being able to call their father was being too cruel. Giju pinched the bridge of his nose in annoyance, while Lu just laughed and said they were not wrong. These angels are being born anew with no memories of their past, so they are literally his creations. Giju then told them to call him Great Master. Since the others call him that as well, then in union they shouted yes, Great Master. Sighing loudly, he nervously looked at the white sword and started the resurrection process. Sometime later Giju entered a unique gate. Their ranks fluctuate and are considered structures that are outside the norm. They're gates that defy logic. All players avoid them due to that uncertainty and danger, but to him, they're just food for Brunhart. As Giju's forces fight with griffin-type monsters inside a unique gate, he comments that they all fight so well. While most players would avoid aerial battles, that didn't really bother him all that much. While imbuing himself with the powers of elemental dark, which can turn his body into darkness, then combine it with spirit fusion, which allows him to fuse with spirits of the same attribute, he can soar into the sky using wings made with elemental darkness. Lu remarked that he was becoming much more proficient at using his skills, but don't ever forget that's all thanks to his spirit fusion skill he earned through his evolution. While floating in air, Giju mindlessly told Lu that he was a genius when it came to praising himself. He will give him that much. While being surrounded by griffins, Giju called an end to all the chit-chat, since he as the master shouldn't be slacking off while his subordinates were fighting. Then proceeded into battle, slashing all the griffins in the sky before him like a madman. The bodies of griffins started to rain down towards the ground, everywhere that Giju passed by. Soon, lots of magic crystals started to collect on the ground by Giju's feet. Releasing his powers, he looked to his empty left hand. He still felt empty when there's nothing in his left hand. His egos told him that he needed to get used to it. As Lu was saying that L is no longer, but a sudden sound of a beast dropping behind them interrupted his speech. Turning to look, he heard a voice telling him that she had brought the materials from the gatekeeper. As he looked, a figure of an angel was standing on top of a gigantic griffin head, and she called him Master. It was the younger version of L, standing before him in her angelic form. Seeing this, a pleasant smile appeared on Giju's face, and he thanked her. 2 months ago, L's revival succeeded well beyond his expectations. As L come to back into existence, she had gone beyond merely reviving as a sword. As life energy flooded the sword, it created a blinding light shocking everyone. The system notified him that he was activating the incarnation skill. And L had somehow obtained a physical body, and her status changed to show that she now possessed the incarnation skill as well as life skill. As L beamed with a bright smile, Giju thanked her for her hard work, which annoyed Lu to no end. She can still transform into a sword, but he wanted to let her be as free as possible now that she's obtained a body. He asked her how her incarnation form was, and was she getting used to using it, to which L replied that she still can't maintain it for very long, so she apologized for showing a lacking side of her. Brunhart commented that she looked very pretty, while Lu griped what's so good about a traitor like her. Giju told Lu to stop being so childish, it was all water under the bridge. While L was apologizing again that she had no excuse for that time, but Giju also told her to stop that as well. Standing in front of the griffin's head, he commented that considering the duration and her childlike appearance, it looks like the skill still has some room for improvement. He guessed that the issue would be resolved somewhat after her evolution. While looking at her status screen, she was missing 2 egoified souls and 1 holy sword to start the process. Huang Chiil was one of the egoified soul, and same like in Lu's case, he couldn't use it haphazardly. Just like how he was able to restore the Elder's ego, he could restore the fragments of Charlemont and the Evil Eye King, but he would still be missing one. But that can be easily resolved as he hunted, but the real problem was the holy sword requirement. And it's not like he can offer one of the 3 angels as sacrifices, and Lu told him that they could cry if they found out he was even thinking of something like that. Then he had no choice but to find the player with 100 swords. As he turned around at the approaching footsteps, his followers kneeled down before him and told him that their mission was completed. With a smile, he told them that they all did a good job, and asked about the crystals. The Lich replied that the skeletons were gathering them, and they will put them into the gate once it was opened. Giju opened the gate, then told them that they should also go help with the collection as well, since time was money, while waving his hand to dismiss them. While turning back to the griffin head, he remarked that he should take what he needed quickly, so that he could absorb the gate. He pulled up the screen, which showed a prompt asked if he would like to absorb the gate. During the time he was reviving L, 3 unique gates appeared in Korea. He would like to absorb all 3, if possible, but he had to yield to the other guilds since the other 2 gates were showing signs of breaking. Using the lesson he learned from the commotion caused from him linking with a gate last time, he used his privilege as a mercenary to raid the gate with no witnesses, and successfully absorbed the gate with no particular trouble. Of course, just absorbing it wasn't enough, as he started at the system prompt that showed that the domination rate was at 0%. Just like what he did with the undead, he would have to kill the monsters again to raise the domination rate. But this time, with the help of his angels, the undead army, and his summoned minions, there wasn't much for him to do, as he sat on a bench drinking his coffee while the battle raged on behind him. Then in no time at all, the domination rate was at 100%. Glad that it was finally done, he closed the system window. But in the next moment, the whole gate started to shake, sending rocks and debris everywhere. As new land formations started to materialize in the sky, and land masses started to shift. As the once gloomy skies of the gate changes to a clear blue sky. A griffin can be seen flying overhead, and Brunhart commented that it's gotten bigger, and Elle remarked that it was more picturesque, while Lou complained that he liked it the way it was before. Giju said that besides Lou's gloomy tastes, the gate's decoration was complete and all that was left was to designate a vice administrator to this gate. Looking at the applicants before him, his number 1 candidate was Hamiel, who looks like he's considered the firstborn among the angels because he received his name first. Hamiel said that as long as he was left in charge, he would dedicate his life to his duty. The number 2 candidate was Dullahan, who became able to talk, possibly because his intelligence rose due to the development of the dungeon. He said just say the word, Great Master, he will accept his duty. And the 3rd candidate, as Giju turned to the sky, he saw the approach of a huge griffin landing near him. Was the King Griffin, the gatekeeper of the gate he just absorbed? As a glint showed in the griffin's eye, it momentarily unnerved Giju. Then in the next moment, the griffin affectionately put his head against Giju and made loving noises, and Giju told him that he will play with him later. As he can see, not an ounce of charisma from it, and there was also the communication issue, and he was afraid if he left it in charge, the whole gate might be covered in bird poop if he let it strut about. Then his only options were either number 1 or number 2. But in the distance, the Lich was sitting on the bench grinning with delight, since whoever becomes the vice administrator, they'll be below him, the administrator. Since Dullahan has always been his subordinate, so it was perfect, and it wouldn't be bad for him to have that angel become his subordinate either. With his fingers locked before him, whatever happens, he would benefit from it, or so the Lich thought. Sometime later, we find the Lich sitting on the cliff edge hugging his legs with the angel behind him. As the Lich sat disappointed, the angel next to him told him not to be disheartened, since it's the Great Master's decision. Turning to look up at the angel, but in the next moment, he put his head back down again. The angel comforted the Lich, telling him at least you're a vice administrator. The Lich, Heart, has been demoted to the status of vice administrator. And the elder, Huang Jichel, was appointed as the new gate administrator. The elder wielding his hammer said that to leave everything to him, he has always been interested in architecture and administration. Lu remarked that, wasn't it cheating to choose someone who wasn't even a candidate, and Giju replied that he didn't think that the elder was an option before. El told him that he's perfect for the job, and Brunhart congratulated his dad calling him the best. Meanwhile in the Iron Shield Guild Tower, Iron Shield was saying that unique gates appearing in Korea was unbelievable. Asking someone if they can really create gates wherever he wanted, just what in the world was he, Ras? As the demon was sitting across from Iron Shield, he smiled and said that was a boring question. Isn't a concordance of understanding all that matters, and Iron Shield apologized begging to be pardoned. While lighting his smoke, he thought that it didn't matter who this man was, the fact that he'll be helpful to him was all that mattered, since he's even prepared to make a deal with the demon for his revenge. Ras told him that it's still too early to be surprised, since everything until now was little more than an appetizer. With glowing red eyes and a wicked smile, he said that the real fun is about to begin. Meanwhile inside the gate, Giju and his new admin was talking within a newly set up provisional tent. The elder brought out the gate map for them to look at. Giju was surprised that the elder could do something like this, and the elder replied that it just naturally came to his mind when he became an administrator. Since you already know about the gate's basic environmental changes, which is the combination of the old and new gates. The elder, pointing to a location, said that this place had 3 mines that formed near the gate's border. A mine of crystals and rare materials. However, Giju doesn't need money, but to him this is pretty much a gold mine, since he can now create items of great value at no cost. But not only that, he had free labor. But the elder noted that above all, the gate makes terrible use of space. As he can see, there's nothing being done with that space other than the pyramid being built. It's not like he's gonna sell it or anything, but was he just planning to just keep it lying around? The elder angrily expressed that it might look like a pyramid, but the inside was a complete mess, and he was gonna have to fix it up soon, to which Giju replied that Rogers will be the one to do that. While looking around the tent, the elder said they will also need to build an actual base instead of a provisional tent, but other than those things, they'll also have to make a prison and hunting ground. Giju asked why, and the elder replied how else was he planning on handling his enemies. He didn't intend to nag him about legalism or vigilantism in a world filled with holes, but he couldn't kill them every single time. Since he could at least give them a chance to reform, but since it's not like they can all be controlled like Rogers, who's lost his powers, they'll need a facility to accommodate them. Giju pondered on making a prison inside a gate. Since there is a rumor among those floating around in society about a prison that imprisons heinous red players, called Gehenna. Apparently, that jail, considered the worst prison, is located somewhere in a sustained gate. Thinking that it might not be just a rumor, he said he understand the need for the prison, but what about the hunting ground? The elder explained that this gate's greatest strength is that monsters are created for free, and of course he can just use them as part of his forces like he is already, but he's not getting everything he can out of them. He would be killing 2 birds with 1 stone if he provided a hunting ground for players close to him, while getting something out of it in the process. Then, thinking back to the meeting with the guild Morningstar Child, Giju recalled their need to train new members. The elder continued to say that he's not suggesting they tackle everything at once, but just to take care of these things one at a time. Nearby, the Lich was hugging his legs in depression, but complimented the elder on being so capable. As the gate grew stronger, so did the monsters, and as a result, the classes of the skeletons have diversified. And he also had more Dullahans than before, so standing before them, he addressed them and asked which one of them was the original Dullahan he knew. Brunhart remarked that they all looked the same, while Lu complained that they had no individuality whatsoever. One of the horsemen spoke up saying that he was the original, and seeing this, Giju said that at this rate, he was gonna have to name him as well. Upon pondering on the name, Lu told him to stop pretending, since it doesn't even take him a minute to name anyone. Then, pointing to the original Dullahan, Giju said his name will be Hal. Upon hearing his name, his eyes started to glow red and he thanked his great master for giving him a name. Then, to Giju's surprise, the head of the Dullahan floated into the air and attached to its body, and transformed into a Death Knight. The system notified him that he had successfully linked with a demon, Death Knight Hal, and a chivalric order has been formed. Then the Death Knight got down on the ground, and kneeling before his master, pledged his loyalty to assist him to the best of his abilities, and all the other Dullahans followed suit. Nervously laughing, Giju thought that not only did he create angels, but now he has created demons as well. Lu was beside himself, saying it was unbelievable, what in the world has he done, and Giju replied how the hell would he know. But Lu said it was not good enough, and he needed to know what just happened, and told Giju to use his demonic eyes. Upon looking at them with his demonic eye, he tried to see into their essence, and as the name Hel appeared above the Death Knight, blood started to drop down from his nose, and Brunhart was surprised by the blood, while Lu cursed loudly. Giju just stood there being puzzled while blood started to drop from his nose without stopping. Soon he covered his nose, saying no way, and started to lose his consciousness. Lu complained, not again, how many times was he going to faint? Seeing his master starting to fall backwards, Hal expressed concern, calling out to his master. But before he could completely fall to the ground, El turned into her angel form and caught him, and shouted for her master to wake up. All his followers rushed to his lying body in concern, while Brunhart told him not to die. While Lu just grunted, "What a mess, don't cause such a fuss," since he was just. But before he could finish, he was interrupted by El saying that this won't do, and they needed to take the master to the safest place. Lu was outraged at this, and the Death Knight Hel said that there's no way he'd listen to an angel's commands, but he was afraid he'll have to agree just this once. Lu was flabbergasted by this development, saying, "What the hell are you guys talking about?" but again interrupted by the Death Knight as he called on everyone to assist the Great Master, with speed and accuracy, since they could not afford to make a single mistake. As Elle flew carrying Giju in her arms, and the Death Knight along with the other headless horsemen charged behind, Lu just sighed, saying, "For Pete's sake, now he's seen it all." As the whole group charged into the horizon. Sometime later, Giju, who was lying on a bed, suddenly opened his eyes. He started to wonder where he was, and Elle next by his bedside told him that he was inside the provisional tent, while Brunhard expressed his joy at his master waking up. Giju looked at Elle and called out her name in puzzlement. Then as he tried to get out of bed, he noticed that his body couldn't move. Lu told him that it's no wonder, since he's been knocked out for a whole week, and Giju, seeing the black sword floating next to him, shouted out in surprise, and told Lu that he scared him. Giju questioned Lu if he can float on his own now, and Lu replied that he was always able to, but didn't see a reason to until now. Giju retorted that he was pretty sure there were plenty of times, then suddenly realized something, and asked was he really knocked out for a whole week, just what in the world happened? Lu told him it's really simple, there was an imbalance between life and death. There was still a piece of the origin of life that burst forth inside him, and it clashed with the power of death the moment he activated his demonic eyes. While slowly getting up from bed, he grabbed his head, thinking he can finally move again, then he complained that again, it was like a bomb was set off inside of him. Lu told him that it's very similar to that, but for now the balance is being. Giju interrupted him, saying wait, while his eyes started to look at his surroundings. Troops were encircling him, standing in attention and alert for any possible signs of danger. He asked what's all this about, and Lu informed him that they'd been guarding him without moving an inch ever since he collapsed. Brunhard said that he had ordered the undeads to protect him, while the Lich beamed with pride that he was able to fulfill his duty as the vice administrator. Elle also commented that the angels have also fulfilled their duty magnificently as well. The angels cried with joy that their father, our great master, had awoken. Being a bit unnerved by all this, Giju thanked them all, but asked where did the bed come from. Pulling the sheet up, there were griffin feathers underneath them. With a puzzled expression, he again thought just what in the God's name happened. Subscribe to the channel for the next part. Thank you for watching, until next time.